Your unauthorized structure is encroaching on common property. This is a clear violation of the bylaws, and it will not be tolerated.
At 8:12 p.m. on August 17, 2024, I came home with a bag of ice and heard metal rattling on my front steps. My porch light flashed against a shiny padlock like a strobe. The air was warm, but the boards under my shoes felt damp from a late sprinkler cycle. A chain was wrapped through my porch gate and cinched tight. My doormat was trapped behind it like it was in jail. I stood there with melting ice in my hand, staring at my own front door like I was trespassing. I pulled out my phone and saw the email timestamp, 7:58 p.m. subject line, guest policy violation. That's when I realized how far the board was willing to go. HOA padlocked my porch for having friends visit, then I walked in with the survey and that email thread. The violation claimed I hosted an unauthorized gathering and blocked the sidewalk with vehicles. One plain fact mattered more than their attitude: my porch is deeded to my lot. Not shared. Not common. I called the HOA number and got the board rep, who sounded proud of himself. I said, "Who put a padlock on my porch gate?" He said, "The association secured the area due to repeated violations." I told him I had 3 friends over for board games, not a street festival. He said, "We received 9 complaints." 9. On a Tuesday night. I asked for names or dates. He said, "Confidential." Then the HOA president took the phone and said, "Consider it motivation to comply." Her voice had that sweet, flat calm like she was talking to a dog that chewed a shoe. The next morning, August 18, 2024 at 9:00 a.m., I walked to the clubhouse with the padlock still on my porch, because I wasn't about to cut anything and let them call it property damage. The lobby smelled like lemon cleaner and burnt coffee. The chair sat behind the desk like a principal, arms crossed. I said, "I need this removed today." She didn't look up from her papers. She said, "Pay the fine first." The board rep stared at the carpet. 2 neighbors waiting for pool keys suddenly found the wall very interesting. Nobody wanted to be seen agreeing with me. I tried the calm appeal, the way you're supposed to. I asked for the rule that allowed a physical lockout. I asked for the complaint log and the vote that approved it. I asked for a hearing date. The chair smiled and said, "You already had your warning." Then she leaned forward and added, "We can also call security if you get aggressive." I wasn't aggressive. I was tired. I walked out with my hands full of paper, and my stomach felt like it had a rock in it. On the walk back, I drew my line in the sand. Proper channels only. I wasn't going to win by arguing in a lobby. I was going to win by proving they stepped out of bounds. Timeline item 1 August 17 at 8:03 p.m. Porch gate padlocked after a board meeting without homeowner present. Then I wrote one plain law line on my notepad so I wouldn't forget what mattered: patterns of false reports can be prosecuted. If they were going to invent 9 complaints, I was going to make them own every word. On August 19, 2024, I went to the county records office. The place was cold enough to raise goosebumps, and the counter smelled like printer ink and old folders. I asked for my lot survey, the plat map, and any recorded easements around my porch and gate. The clerk slid a thick packet across the window slot and stamped it hard. The file landed with 68 pages. I spread the survey on my kitchen table and followed the boundary lines with my finger. The porch gate and steps were fully inside my property. No common access. No HOA control. Just mine. Then I opened my email like it was a crime scene. I searched the guest policy thread from the last 2 months. I'd asked simple questions. How many guests are allowed? What counts as a gathering? Does it apply to private driveways? Their replies were a mess. One manager said, "Guests are fine, just be reasonable." The chair replied later with, "Any non-resident vehicle is a violation." Then, 2 days after that, the board rep wrote, "We will enforce as needed." Perfect. They had contradicted themselves in writing, and now they'd escalated to a padlock. I printed everything. I lined up photos, emails, and call logs in a binder. I included a photo of the padlock, close enough to show the serial shape without making it readable. I printed my Ring camera clip showing the chair's husband walking up with the chain at 7:55 p.m., looking left and right like he knew it was wrong. I didn't post it. I didn't blast anyone. I filed a formal complaint with the management company and requested an emergency hearing. I also filed a police non-emergency report for unlawful interference with access, just to create a record, not to cause a scene. The payoff twist came at the September 4, 2024 HOA hearing in the community room. The air was stale, like folding chairs and old carpet. The chair sat at the front table with a stack of papers, acting bored. I walked in calm, carrying my binder and a rolled survey tube like a prop from a courtroom show. I said, "Before we start, I want this recorded in the minutes." She sighed, but the manager nodded. Then I laid the survey on the table and pointed at the boundary line around my porch. I followed it with a pen and said, "This gate is not HOA property. It's mine." She tried to pivot fast. She said, "It's about safety. Too many visitors. Too much noise." I opened the email thread and read their own words back to them, one by one, showing the contradictions. Then I played the short camera clip of the chain being installed. No audio of private conversations, just the act of locking my gate. The room went quiet in that uncomfortable way, like everyone's brain is catching up. The board rep swallowed hard. The manager's eyebrows lifted and stayed there. Public reaction didn't wait until later. It happened right there, in real time. A neighbor in the second row whispered, "They actually locked him out?" Another said, "That's insane." Someone behind me murmured, "I've been paying fines just to avoid her." A lady near the door pulled out her phone and started typing fast, eyes wide. The group chat buzzed, and I could see screens glow in hands like tiny flashlights. One message popped up on a neighbor's lock screen, "If they can do that to him, they can do it to anyone." Another, "Save those emails." Another, "Record meetings from now on." Nobody clapped. Nobody cheered. They just watched like they were seeing a magic trick revealed, and it wasn't magic. It was overreach. The authority flip didn't come from a superhero. It came from process. The management company's attorney joined by speakerphone and asked one direct question: "Where in the governing documents does it authorize physical lockout of a private entrance?" Silence. The attorney explained that fines and collections must follow notice, due process, and lawful methods, not self-help actions that restrict access to a home. "The county property lines," she said, "are not optional." Then a community policing officer who handles civil standby issues explained that locking someone out can cross into unlawful interference, even if you claim HOA enforcement. The officer also noted that false complaint patterns can create legal exposure if used to harass a resident. The chair tried to argue, but every time she spoke, someone asked for the exact rules section. She had none. Right after that, the room shifted in a way that felt almost physical. People who had been slouched looked taller. A guy in the back stopped fidgeting and folded his arms like he finally felt safe to hold a position. Phones stayed out, steady, documenting, not for drama but for protection. The chair's confidence drained fast, like someone pulled the plug on a loud machine. Her voice got sharper, then smaller, because it wasn't filling the air anymore. The board rep stopped nodding along and stared at his hands. It was like the spell broke and everyone realized the chair only had power when nobody challenged her with proof. You could almost see her losing oxygen, because attention had turned into scrutiny, and scrutiny doesn't feed bullies. The aftermath was simple, and that's what made it satisfying. On September 6, 2024 at 3:15 p.m., the management company delivered a written decision. The fine was voided, the padlock action was prohibited, and the HOA had to pay for a locksmith to remove the chain the same day. They also issued a policy correction stating guest rules must be clear, written, and applied evenly. The chair was removed from enforcement decisions pending a board review, and the board rep was required to do compliance training. My porch was mine again, quietly, like it always should have been. The neighborhood changed in little ways that mattered. People started walking past my house again without looking guilty. A neighbor brought me a plate of cookies and said, "We didn't know what to do, but we're glad you did it." At the next meeting, residents asked for minutes and requested votes be recorded, not handled privately. Folks stopped paying mystery fines without asking questions. They started keeping their own folders. And the chair? She still showed up, but she sat farther back, watching the room like it had turned on her, because it had. On September 20th, 2024 at 6:50 p.m., I sat on my porch with the same 3 friends, listening to crickets and the soft hum of sprinklers, and I looked at my binder on the table like it was a quiet little shield made of paper. If you enjoyed this, hit like, subscribe, and share. Was the HOA wrong? Drop a comment.